Hey everybody, this is Dave Clark, aka the Pattern Guy. Welcome to another Chalk Talk. It's been a while since we've had a Chalk Talk. Like I said, I want to try to get 2 videos out a week. Haven't been doing that the last few weeks. We've just been super busy summer this summer. Okay, so hopefully things are starting to slow down a little bit. I've been down to Foundry a couple times, just haven't had a chance to bring you guys up there with me. I've just been having to get things going, and it just all kinds of things going. All right, so anyhow, I finally got my buddy Dean's projects done. I got 2 of these castings poured. Okay, here they are. They're almost 22 pounds a piece. So there is some shrinkage on these things right here. It's not structural. He's gonna paint this. We'll just fill that full of Bondo. And you know, this should be good. I made 2 of these things, so probably in doing this project, I probably found out that, you know, like an 18-pound aluminum casting is going to be my max that I'm going to be able to handle. Okay, so that's one good thing about this project. So next step for this, hopefully this week, I'm going to start machining these. I'll try to get some of it on video. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. We'll see. And like I said, I kind of I want to do a woodworking talk today, and then I kind of would rather. I know I've been skipping around a lot. I'm not doing this in any particular order, so I really would rather just stick to the woodworking things. I did promise you I'll show you how to tap those nuts. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to do that this week. We'll make sure we do that, because that's kind of interesting, and it'll help you out down the road. Okay, so there's that project. If you remember this, we just had to make one of these things. A big chunk of sand fell off, and I said, oh, that's not going to be a big deal, because, you know, it's just going to be a big sand. We could cut the chunk of sand off. It wasn't a chunk of sand. It made a hole filled full of aluminum, so there's a big chunk of aluminum in here. Okay, and instead of trying to make a mold and keep on trying to make the molds, I just left a big chunk of sand in there, and you can see I cut it out. I got a little bit more grinding, but you know, that's where we're at with that one. Okay, got to grind it up, make it look a little bit nicer in there. Okay, so there's those 2 projects. And like I said, I actually last week it was kind of a bummer too, so I did a small project for a guy. I got to cast him yet, and he doesn't want you know, his stuff on YouTube, so which is fine. You know, we're gonna have that with customers. You know, they just don't, you know, their business is their business, which is fine. Okay, so one of the things, watching a video I did a week or 2, the one with the angle plate. Okay, and you can see how that pattern was starting to delaminate and everything. Okay, so that's we're going to get a little bit into wood and how it moves, and you know, how moisture affects wood. It's one of the biggest problems. Okay, like I said, if you've listened to other videos, I used to read a ton of like technical articles and that. I used to get five different trade magazines, like, you know, Popular Mechanics, Fine Woodworking, Woodworking Projects, just all kinds of wood stuff. And I just used to, you know, suck this all up, just the different characteristics for woods, glues, finishes, all that stuff. I haven't been doing it like the last 14 years. I'm just to the point where it's like, you know what, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I haven't been doing it. So I'll teach you what I can remember, and it's still important. And if you're just getting started out, it's important to read articles like that, because they're, you know, things change, finishes change, glues, adhesives, everything changes. Okay, so you always want to keep up with the new stuff. You know, most of the pattern making stuff's, you know, tried and true. It's been around forever. But you know, if you go do some projects beyond, you know, patterns and that, you know, you want to be able to know the different technologies and stuff like that. Okay, so one of the biggest things is when I was showing you that pattern the other day, and you can see how it started delaminating. Okay, so moisture plays a real big part in wood, in the fact that, you know, as the tree's growing, it's, you know, it's full of water. Okay, it's got a lot of moisture in there, and I forget what the percentage of moisture that's in, like if you cut a tree down today, and they're all different with the different species, obviously, but one of the biggest things, I think it's like 60 or 70% of the tree's water or something like that. I mean, it's up there hugely. So woodworkers, we can't have that much moisture in wood for various different reasons. It's harder to machine for the most part. Some are easier to machine if they have a little bit higher moisture content. You know, your fine woodworking equipment, you're working with moist wood. Moisture's gonna get all over your tables, the cast iron, and they'll rust overnight too. They'll rust overnight, all right? So you don't want that. Plus, when the wood is wet, it's less stable, okay? So you want to try to get it down to a more stable condition so that it stays more true and straight and doesn't warp, twist, and all that, okay? So what happens is, most guys, there's numerous debates with the moisture content. The biggest one that I've ever seen, and kind of the average, you want the moisture content when you're working with wood to be around 8 to 12%. Okay, some guys say, oh no, it's got to be 6 to 8 and that. I have my own moisture meter, not so much the mahogany and the pine that I get. I don't worry about that stuff and that. But if I do woodworking projects, I'll do stuff. And then Dean, you know, he actually has a wood mill, and he'll you know, I still do a little bit of tree work in that, and I know some guys still do it. You know, if I get an opportunity to get a tree trunk of some kind of a tree, a lot of times I'll take it up to Dean's. You know, we'll cut it up, he'll dry it for me. And I don't do it too much anymore, but I used to. Actually, when I built this house, I don't want to go on a tangent again like I usually do, but literally, I went to a buddy's house on a Tuesday. We cut a bunch of poplar trees down in his yard. Took them up to Dean's. He sold him his trailer. My trailer was full of like my timber. We were splitting it hazy. We were supposed to go from there to Ford to work. We were on afternoon, so I told Terry to go ahead, and, you know, Dean wasn't doing anything, so I said, hey, how about if we start cutting this and that, you know. So Terry went and told the boss I wasn't coming in, and Dean and I milled it. We loaded the kiln. I think, you know, when we got to Dean's, probably around 1:30 in the afternoon. I didn't leave there till about 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, something like that. And so that was Tuesday, all right. I went and picked up the wood Friday because Dean's got a he's got a vacuum kiln, you know, it dries in 2-3 days, most species. And so I went and picked it up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I spent time in the shop here milling. And Tuesday, I was hanging trim. I was making casement trim for all my windows and doors. I was hanging it the next Tuesday. From Tuesday to Tuesday, I went from standing tree to trim on my house, you know. So it's kind of a neat thing you can do, and this is what I want to try to get you guys into doing, okay? So you got to know a little bit about what you're doing in that, all right? So I do have a moisture meter. I like to get, you know, if I'm in between 8 and 12%, okay, I'm good. Now here, the other thing with the 8 to 12%, and like I said, along with this, like all the other lessons I can teach, I can sit here for 8 hours and explain a lot of this stuff to you, okay? What happens is there's what's called, depends what region you live in, okay, also. So right here in Cleveland, right now, today, it's a Sunday, I was supposed to go up to the foundry. I didn't go up to the foundry. It's 98 outside, and it's like 92% humidity out there, and the humidity kills. I mean, I got the air conditioning on, and I can feel water on my arms. That's how humid it is here, okay? So that affects wood, okay? So you have what's called the ambient humidity also, all right? So what you can do is, you know, I could bring a load of lumber here, and it's 8 to 10% humidity, But when I get it out here in the shop and it sits out here for, you know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, well, my ambient humidity in here is running like 14 to 16%. You're going to pick up a little bit. You know, I might be, instead of 8 to 12% moisture content, now I'm up to 10 to 14%. So it really watch, you know, with your garage. My old garage at my old house, that place was just moisture laden. I mean, the moisture just sucked up so much, you know, in there. I literally there were times I had a hard time painting things, finishing things. I actually built a pattern for a customer one time. I was working full time, spent all night. I was out in the garage till 11 o'clock, went to bed, got to my job at 7 in the morning, had the pattern for this guy in my truck. I was going to drop it off after work. Then it was a really hot day out the next day, and the pattern literally exploded because it was so moisture laden. And then once it was in my truck, heated up very quickly, and it blew apart. I kid you not, you know. So, hey, you got that kind of thing. So a lot of professional woodworkers, not so much when you're doing pattern making that, but when you're doing, you know, furniture making, things like that, what they'll do is they'll bring their lumber into their shop and they'll let it sit for about a week, okay? And then they'll plane it one day, and they'll not plane it all the way right down. They'll leave it like a 32nd or a 16th of an inch full, let it sit for another week or so, and then they start machining it, okay? So that's one of the things you can do. If you can do that, that's the right way to do it, okay? If you see a lot of bowl turners, they prefer to turn the bowls wet. So what they'll do is they'll go get their pieces of wood, start turning bowls, and get them halfway done, and let them sit for like a year, let them dry out, and then they'll come back and finish them up, you know? So, because if they turn those things all, get them down to where they want them, you know, they're going to start drying out in a week or two. They're going to all crack and split and warp and twist and, you know, that stuff, okay? So I'm going to turn you guys off for a second, then we're going to come back and do some chalking, okay? Hang on a sec. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Joe was telling me a lot of problems I've been having is we can only keep the camera on for like a half an hour. I don't want to get, you know, to where I'm going to lose you, okay? So what I'm going to teach you guys today is, you know, if you can keep your lumber in your shop for a few weeks before you start working on it, that's the best thing. If not, because like I say too, with me, a lot of my lumber is downstairs in my basement, okay, and I bring out in this garage that I have now, the shop here, I got a heater and I got an air conditioner, so I'm pretty stable, you know. And the other thing, not only for the wood, for the heater you know, if you can heat your shop, it's not just to keep you comfortable, it's to keep your machine stable in that too. My old shop, we didn't have heat, but if we, you know, wanted to do a project, we'd go out, put a torpedo heater on, you know, warm the garage up. It was insulated in that. And, you know, we get a comfortable working temperature, and then, you know, you're done at the end of the night, you go in the house, well, the temperature starts dropping hugely, and all your machines start sweating and they start rusting. So that's another reason, your machinery also, okay? So here's the important part for us in pattern making, moisture content wise, okay, is, and I've gone over some of this before, okay? So say I want to build a pattern board, okay, and it's got to be 3 feet by 4 feet, okay? So most of the boards, you don't want to go over 12 inches because they're going to start warping and cupping, okay? And it's more stable and stronger if you glue boards together, okay? So just say, like I say, traditionally Freeman, they sell, I get their pine, it's 12 inches wide, okay? So say we got to make a board, okay? So you look at your the ends of the boards, okay? So say this is 3 feet, all right, so we got to cut or use 3 pieces of lumber. Okay, so like I said, we've gone over this before. All right, so when you look, for the new guys, when you look at the end of your piece of wood, okay, you see the growth rings, what's called the growth rings in there. And even if you haven't seen you see a piece of firewood cut off, or you see guys cut firewood or trees down, you see in the tree the rings in there, okay, the growth rings, and that represents a year of growth, okay. And then the smaller and tighter, the more stable, okay. When those growth rings start getting bigger, the wood's not as stable, okay. So what you want to do is, your first board, you want your growth rings like this. Now this board's going to tend to pull this way, okay. Then your second board, you want to you want your growth rings going that way, and then you just keep on alternating, okay. That way it's going to be more stable than if I put growth rings all going down on this, then this whole thing's going to want to cup, okay. So with this one's fighting a little bit, but this one's kind of pulling it back, right? And then the same thing, okay. So with that, okay, well here, let me go here too, okay. Like I said, I haven't read articles on this. One of the articles I did read on this, you want to keep, like on furniture, wood floors, you want to keep moisture off of your woodwork, even if it's finished. The newer finishes are nicer. They don't let the wood absorb as much in that, okay. But I read an article years ago where they did they had a table down in Williamsburg, big table, and they noticed that it was starting to cup upwards, okay. And it didn't make sense to the people taking care of it, because it was cupping this way. I think this is what happened. It was a full piece of wood, because back then they didn't have the adhesives and that. It's easier to do it. All right, so it was a full table, like 3.5 feet wide or something. So they had the growth rings running like that, okay? So what theoretically, technically, right, this piece of wood should have cupped this way, or tabletop, okay? It should have cupped this way. However, it was actually cupping the other way. It was opposite of the way the grain was going, okay? So what they figured out, they did study after study and study. All right, so what this article said was that the wood, the cells in the wood are round, okay? And you had a bunch of, like little round wood cells, right, in these pieces of wood, okay? Well, when the moisture gets sucked out of them, they start looking like blobs, okay, in that. And what happened was, what they're figuring what was happening is the people were cleaning the top of this table with just soap and water in that, okay? So they kept on introducing moisture here. Well, every time they introduced moisture, these cells would get round again. So that was what was making it misform, and then it was misforming on the top because that's the only place the moisture was getting, okay? So that's a big thing you gotta watch with your moisture. Okay, now with moisture and wood and single pieces like that, I've heard numerous debates of, I've worked in a few pattern shops. Every single pattern shop I've worked in, we've always just laid the boards on the shelf and stack them on top of each other, okay? A lot of people say the best is to stack them straight up and down against the wall. Dean has his showroom where all his lumber is, and it's all straight up and down. I believe it is for, you get the air circulation. You always want air circulating around your lumber, okay? So that's part of it, and then it's easier for people to kind of dig through it and look at the pieces also, okay? So if you can, you know, just stack it straight up against the wall. That's the best way to leave your lumber. Okay, so getting back to machining your lumber, all right, say I'm building a pattern, and I mean, this has happened to me numerous times. By the time I go to the lumber rack, cut things to length, go on a table saw, cut it to width, join it, thickness plane it, it's like, ah, time to go home. Well, here I got a big stack of milled lumber. Okay, so you go over your bench, you know, here's your bench top, and what do you want to do? I just want to lay these boards down on top of each other like that, okay? I don't get any air movement underneath those, okay, and then that's gonna have a more likely tendency for these to start warping and cupping again right after you just milled them, okay? So every time you do this, if you can, you know, if you mill some lumber up, and you know, depending on length, you know, usually pattern pieces are smaller, so you just chuck it on the bench. You know, if you're doing a big wood project, stack it up against the wall again, and then for my smaller pieces, if I mill something and it's gonna sit overnight, I'll stack it up height-wise, okay, and then I, you know, let some air go through it, okay. Another thing you can do, which is more difficult, in that you can actually do it horizontal, but and this is one of the things Dean does. He'll mill a bunch of lumber. He won't be able to fit it all in his kiln. So what he does, he'll lay a long board out, and then he'll put these things called stickers, okay, and then put another board, okay, and that lets air get through it. So you could do something like that too. But I mean, it's kind of, you know, kind of hard to do that when you're just doing little things. These have to be the exact same height too, okay? They can't be different, all right? So there's a couple things. And then one more thing here, you know, and we've done this already. We've glued the pieces up, but we'll go over it one more time, you know, for the new guys here. Okay, so I gotta glue, I need a piece of lumber 8 inches thick, okay? So I'm gonna just glue 4 2-inch pieces or 4 8/4 pieces together. Okay, so my first piece, I want the growth rings moving down. The second one, alternate them, going down, all right, and then going up. Okay, that's for stability, moisture getting in there and that, okay. So, and then like I said, once you do this, you know, we'll get in down the road to you know, what the why we're clamping things, you know, why we're making, you know, how much clamping pressure do you need, how much glue, different kinds of glues and that, okay, as we're going along. But, you know, this is just, like I said, I could sit there for all day and tell you about, you know, the wood characteristics and moisture contents and all that stuff and that. So, and like I said too, a lot of it does change, you know. We'll get a study out this year, and the next year get another study out, and you know, things do change. And like I said, I haven't read the technical stuff in probably about 15 years too, so it's a, you know, do read up on all that stuff, okay, too. But I mean, this is basically the way I've been doing things, you know, since I've been doing this, and you know, I haven't had any problems. I mean, gluing up wise, you know, I was taught how to glue stuff up. I've never had a glue joint fail on me, ever. I kid you not. I'm not lying to you. Never ever had a glue joint fail. So it's, you learn how to do it properly, and that's old Joe, the old German guy. He was a stickler for gluing stuff up. So that's a little bit about the wood. Like I said, we're gonna be doing more and more and more with this. All right, so we'll keep it short today. I'm gonna try to. We'll see what we can do. Things are starting to slow down. We're in August right now too, so August is another hot month for Cleveland. So, you know, I got to get up to the foundry, but like today I should have gone, I could have and I should have gone up to the foundry today, but it was just too humid. I just can't do it. Humidity actually messes with the sand too, so it's just not worth taking a trip up there to have things go wrong, okay? So, you know, we're going to get out with the humidity. We'll have a couple good months where we're going to get some good foundry, and then it'll get cold and we'll have to deal with cold stuff too here, so it's a bear. But, you know, it's just the things you got to deal with, and I'll try to teach you all the things you got to deal with. You know, like if you're in a high humid area like we are, you know, it's going to affect your wood different. Like I said, it affects the sand on the foundry and that too. So, okay, but you know, I'll try to get back on schedule with the chalk talks on Wednesdays. I'm kind of hoping, and then get back to some regular videos. I've heard it, probably sick and tired of me saying I'm so far behind on foundry stuff, so hopefully you guys, I'll show you a lot of stuff up in the foundry in the coming weeks here, because I do that newer customer, looks like things might be a go with those guys for certain projects, so I'll actually will be probably spending more time up at the foundry than here in the pattern shop. So doing a lot of aluminum castings. They want a lot of aluminum castings done. So Blaine too. Blaine's almost done with the molding machine, so he'll be done with the molding machine next week or two and that. So I got to get back up, finish the electrical and the plumbing. We'll do that with you guys, and then hopefully that'll get going. And then was another project. Oh, my new customers. I actually visited their shop last week, and they have a lot of real cool, I told you I'm a machine junkie. They have a lot of real cool machines. They have several shops, and when I was in smaller, but they got a bunch of real cool machines that they're like specific, like gear cutting machines, things like that. So I asked them if I could go do some filming up there. So hopefully in the next, you know, month or two, we'll get up there and do some filming. I got to get Joe to help me with that. I'm not going to be able to do it by myself. So yeah, just look forward to, I got a couple woodworking projects we're going to definitely get to. Definitely going to be getting up to the foundry a lot more, because I'm going to be doing a lot more castings and that. And then, you know, hopefully we'll get that molding machine. We'll show you how that runs and works. And then, you know, like I said, if you guys have any questions or anything, or you guys want to see stuff or what, just let me know. You know, add it down in the comments, okay? So with all that said, I'm going to let you guys go. If you've have already subscribed, I really appreciate it. If you haven't, I'd appreciate it if you would. And if you can, hit that like button, okay? Everybody have a good one out there and stay safe.